My name is Stanley Cornello, and this monologue that I'm about to do for you is a story about a man named Sergeant Sugar. You see, I was the staff sergeant and company cook at Fort Hood, Texas. The reason they call me Sergeant Sugar is because, well, I got a little bit of a sweet tooth, you see. My beef stew may taste a little bland, but you're sure as hell gonna love my pastries, I guarantee it. Every person on that base has been through my mess hall either to eat or to work in my kitchen. Now, I've seen a lot of boys come and go in my time, but there's one in particular that sticks out in my mind. You see, I was the company cook and staff sergeant at Fort Hood when Elvis Presley was a raw recruit. You see, when Elvis went into the army, he didn't want special treatment. He wanted to do what he called every man's duty, which meant he had to come through me. The day Elvis pulled KP is a day I'll never forget. It was about 4 in the morning, and he come walking in, yawning, scratching that famous crotch of his, and me being a Hank Williams fan, I really wasn't impressed by Mr. Rock and Roll. I do recall that he asked permission if he could help himself to a glass of milk. So we got to chatting a little bit. Turned out he was a fan of my cooking, particularly fond of my cat heads. See, my cat heads are these little balls of dough with cream filling inside. He ate them 2 at a time. Said eating one would just be an insult to his mama. After that, Elvis went right to work. Started stacking the trays, setting out the salt and pepper shakers. I didn't have to tell him to do much. He just went at it. Now those 2 other idiots that were with him, Sprague and Odegaard, they got one look at him and they started following him around as if he was giving the orders. Well, the day progressed, and breakfast came and went, and soon we were prepping for lunch, and by the afternoon, Elvis and his 2 buddies were yucking it up and spraying each other with the hose in the sink, and then again we started prepping for dinner. After dinner, it was just cleaning up, and all that was left to do was to clean out the grease trap. Now, you see, the grease trap was this little septic tank outside. It gathered up all the grease and the sludge of the stuff that we cooked during the day. And the only way to clean it was to drain it out and then to wash it out by hand. And to do that, you had to stick your arm in and get in there. I've personally seen boys who would go on to win the Purple Heart fall to their knees and cry from having to clean the grease trap. So, before they got to it, I gave them a little bit of a break. You see, I worked Elvis pretty hard, not harder than usual, every man's duty. So I step outside to have myself a cigar, and I see Elvis sitting on the ground there up against the wall. And it was Sprague who was kind of egging him on, going, "Hey, Elvis, come on, Mr. Rock and Roll. Sing us a song, man. Come on, with the hips and driving the girls nuts." Elvis wasn't having any part of it. He just looked up and he said, uh, say, Sergeant Sugar, how about you sing a song? I looked at him and I said, Elvis, I don't know how to sing no goddamn song. And he just said, well, just talk about some of those great dishes that you make. That's all the music I need to hear. I said, Elvis, you want me to sing for you? And he said, uh-huh. I didn't know what to do. I was put on the spot. I never sang a song before. And then all of a sudden, Elvis jumped up and he was just well, hold the smokes and sakes alive. When some sugar cooks it made me wanna cry. I eat it up, I eat it up, I eat it up, I wanna cry. Best song I ever heard. The way he came alive. His voice, it just resonated off the barricades. It had fire. It had soul. Jesus was in there, and so was his mama. After that, Elvis just kind of turned and scratching the back of his neck. You could see he was a little put off. And Spragg and Odegaard, they just stood there with their mouths on the ground because they just saw something that they were going to tell their grandkids about. After a few minutes, Elvis just went on to clean the grease trap. Spragg and Odegaard just stood there watching him. I just let him do it. No words were said after that. It was about midnight when Elvis headed back to the barricades, covered in grease from head to toe. After that day, Elvis never pulled KP again. Normally boys get it 3, 4 times, but I had a feeling Elvis had felt he had done every man's duty. I'd see him in the mess hall every once in a while, and we'd start talking and talk about my cooking, and he even offered me a job. He wanted me to come cook for him when he got out of the army. I thought about it, but the way I figured it is that sooner or later, Elvis would eventually get tired of my cooking, and I would end up selling aluminum siding out of a car trunk somewhere. The way I saw it was, in the army, I'm somebody. In the army, I'm Sergeant Sugar. Out there, I'd just be Joe Schmuck. Well, eventually, Elvis finished his training and he was shipped off to Germany where he sat out and had a nice cushy position. And I admit, after that, I did become an Elvis Presley fan. I bought all the records and I saw all the movies and I watched the TV specials. And in the end, it was just kind of sad what happened to that boy. But of all those Elvis songs that I heard in my life, I ain't never heard a song that sounded as good as the one he sang outside my kitchen.